In today's numeracy lesson, we are going to learn about time. Finally, the time has come to learn about time. Like distance, time is something to measure and present in numbers, but we use different units and devices to measure time. Why is time very important? Have you ever thought why we wear a watch? Time helps us to make a good habit of organizing and structuring our daily activities. Time also plays a significant role in our lives. There are different units of time that we use to measure the time, such as seconds, minutes, and hours. And I'm sure you're all familiar with day because you encounter it every day. And you have also been learning about it in your science lesson that a day is the amount of time it takes the Earth to rotate on its axis one time. So it's a very important unit of time. But we also need smaller units of time for planning daily activities. So people decided to divide each day into 24 equal units of time called hours. Even though an hour is 1/24th of a day, it's still a very long time. So we divide hours into smaller units called minutes. So 1 hour equals to 60 minutes, and minutes divided into small units called seconds. 1 minute equals to 60 seconds. One of the early devices that was used in the olden days to measure the time was a sundial. The ancient Egyptians used shadows cast by the sun to mark the passage of time during the day. You can also make one in your free time if you'd like to. The sundial was a very cool invention, but it had so many limitations. But fortunately, there are some modern devices to keep track of time. You probably have one hanging on the wall at home or in your bedroom, or you're probably wearing a watch. But there are two different types of clocks. We have analog clocks, which are designed to keep track of 3 different units of time: seconds, minutes, and hours. That's why it has 3 different hands. The thin red hand is called the second hand. The thick longer hand is called the minute hand because it helps us keep track of minutes. And this shorter black hand is called hour, which helps us keep track of hours. And the circle itself is referred to as clock face. Starting with the second hand, if it's on top of the clock face, when the hand rotates to the right so that it's pointing at the next mark, that means that 1 second of time has passed. And if it goes all the way around and comes back to the top of that clock, it means 60 seconds of time has passed, and that equals to 1 minute. That means when the second hand makes one whole rotation around the clock, 1 minute has passed. The minute hand travels slower than the second hand, and when it makes one whole rotation around the clock, that means 60 minutes have passed, which equals to 1 hour. But if they wanted to show all those numbers, that would be so hard. So the inventors of the clock decided to make every 5th mark bigger, so you can skip count by 5s, which helps you to quickly tell where the hands are pointing. In order to be able to tell the time quickly, you should memorize those numbers. The only thing is that the hour hand doesn't use the 60 marks that are shown on the clock in the same way that the other hands do. Why not? Because there aren't 60 hours in a day. There's only 24. So to keep track of the whole day, the hour hand needs to make 2 full rotations around the clock. It counts as 12 hours for the first half of the day and 12 hours for the second half of the day. That means the hour hand will pass each number twice in a day, and we need to find a way to distinguish them, and that's where AM and PM can help us out. Over time, the measurement of time evolved. It was decided that the beginning of a day was to happen at midnight and the middle of the day was to be at noon. Later, the day was divided into 12-hour periods. Noon marked the joining points of these periods. In Latin, these times were known as AM, which stands for antemeridium, which just means before noon or before midday, and PM, which stands for postmeridium, which means afternoon or after midday. Now, there are also another type of clock called digital clock. A digital clock is a type of clock that displays the time digitally, as opposed to an analog clock where the time is indicated by the positions of rotating hands. Digital clocks show us the time using numbers like this, hours and minutes. For example, this clock is showing us 5:08, 5 hours and 8 minutes. Have a look at this example. These two clocks, the analog and the digital clocks, are showing exactly the same time, 11:30. One is showing it using the hand rotations and the other one is showing it using numbers. Have a look at another example. These two analog and digital clocks are showing exactly the same time, 6:25. One showing it using the hands and the other one using the numbers. As I said earlier, there are 24 hours in a day and 60 minutes in each hour. So there are two main ways to show the time. One is the 24-hour clock and the other one is AM and PM or 12 hours clock. In the 24-hour clock, the time is shown as how many hours and minutes since midnight or 12 AM. In the 12-hour clock or AM PM, the day is split into two. The 12 hours running from midnight to noon, the AM hours, and the other 12 hours running from noon to midnight, the PM hours. This picture helps you to better understand these times that I just explained. As you can see that 0 o'clock is just midnight and then 12 o'clock is just the midday. And for example, if we have a time like 3 PM, that equals to 15 o'clock. So there are different ways of telling the time. To make it a little bit easier to understand, you can have a look at this table. So for example, from midnight to noon or from 0 o'clock to 11:59 is counted as AM, and from noon to midnight, which is from 12 o'clock to 23:59 is PM. Now, to convert these AM and PM hours to a 24-hour clock, you will add 12 to any hour after noon or 12 o'clock, or subtract 12 for the first hour of the day. As I said, for the first hour of the day, 12 midnight to 12:59 AM, subtract 12 hours. So 12 midnight is 0 o'clock, so 12:35 AM equals to 35 as well. Then from 1 AM to 12:59 PM, no change, you don't need to change anything. So 11:20 AM is the same as 11:20, or 12:30 PM is the same as 12:30. Then from 1 PM to 11:59 PM, you need to add 12 hours. For example, 4:45 PM adding a 12 is 16:45, or 11:50 PM is 23:50. Now, to do the opposite, which to convert 24-hour clock to AM and PM, for the first hour of the day, you will need to add 12 hours to make it AM. For example, 10 minutes equals to 12:10 because you add 12, or 40 minutes equals to 12:40 AM. Again, from 1 o'clock to 11:59, you don't need to change anything, just make it AM. 1:15 equals to 1:15 AM. Or 11:20 equals to 11:25 AM, so you don't need to change anything. And then another easy part is from 12 o'clock to 12:59, you don't need to change anything again, just make it PM. So 12:10 equals to 12:10 PM, or 12:55 equals to 12:55 PM. You don't need to change anything actually. Then from 13 o'clock to 23:59, you need to subtract 12 hours to make it PM. For example, 14:55 take away 12 equals to 2:55 PM, or 23:30 equals to 11:30 PM. And always remember that with practice, you will be great at telling the time.